I'm not gonna go give you 3 hard hours a day getting beat up and go home and get beat up and have to overdose myself on painkillers to get ready for the game.
That is Shaq on what staying on the court actually took. The NBA handed him 4 rings, then handed him the bill: broken joints, an opioid addiction, and kidneys permanently damaged from 2 decades of painkillers. At 54, the man who dominated the world is now negotiating with everything the game left behind, and it is heartbreaking. The Warrior, a child too big for his own world. Shaquille Rashawn O'Neal entered the world on March 6, 1972, in Newark, New Jersey. His name carries 2 definitions. Shaquille means little one in Arabic, and Rashawn translates to warrior. The irony of the name little one is one he has spent his entire life outgrowing. His mother, Lucille, was 17 years old when she gave birth to him. His biological father, Joseph Toney, a high school all-state basketball guard who had been offered a scholarship to Seton Hall, struggled with drug addiction and was imprisoned shortly after Shaq's birth, before eventually relinquishing his parental rights. Lucille raised Shaq alone. Then she met a man named Sergeant Philip Harrison. Harrison was an Army sergeant. He married Lucille when Shaq was around 2 or 3 years old, and from that point forward, Shaq has never once referred to him as a stepfather. The man he called Dad was the man who showed up.
Because, the term stepfather, I don't really use. I use father. He's the guy who made me who I am.
That man made things hard. Harrison's military background was strict, physical, and uncompromising. He hit Shaq when he crossed lines. He ran laps when Shaq disobeyed. He instilled discipline through force, when force was what the moment called for. He had been raised by his own Jamaican father with severe physical discipline, and he passed that down. The family moved constantly. Military postings took them through Germany, Texas, Georgia, and New Jersey. Every new school was a new battlefield. Every new neighborhood had new kids waiting to see how the giant would react.
How much were you teased growing up
A lot.
because of your size?
A lot. I had to figure out 2 things.
He came to 2 conclusions fast: either make them fear you or make them laugh. For a long time, he chose fear.
I was always a bully until one day in 5th grade, I had a spit wad. I threw it at the chalkboard.
That path ended the day he fought a smaller kid, who then had an epileptic seizure on the ground in front of him.
So I'm beating this kid up, and I'm kicking this kid, and he has a epileptic seizure. It's just me and the kid out there, and he's on the ground shaking.
That moment shifted the direction of everything. His mother's words landed differently after that.
My mother pulls me to the side and said, "You're too big and too strong. You can't ever do that again." And that kind of stayed with me.
He put the fist down. He picked up humor. He became the class clown, the kid who made people laugh before they could make him cry. But he still had no direction. He was a self-described medium-level juvenile delinquent, stealing, fighting, following others into trouble because he did not yet know how to lead himself.
I can't do it. I was very, very shy. Always had self-doubts about myself and just never thought I could do it. Anything.
The pivot came in a seat at Madison Square Garden. Harrison, a man who sometimes went without so his daughters could have Christmas presents, got tickets to a Knicks game. Shaq had just brought home a report card full of C's. Harrison handed him 2 tickets as a reward. That night, Julius Erving went baseline and threw it down. The crowd erupted.
He has 2 tickets to the New York Knicks versus Philadelphia 76ers. Dr. J goes baseline, throws it down, crowd goes crazy. As the crowd erupts,
He turned to his father in that arena and made a decision.
it's like all that energy entered me. And I felt something. I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I know what I want to do when I grow up."
From that night, the delinquency stopped. He was not a star immediately. He was cut from the varsity team as a freshman. He was still growing into a frame that most people had never seen. But he practiced. He put in the hours. And by the time the Harrison family relocated to San Antonio, Texas, something had changed. In his junior and senior seasons at Robert G. Cole High School, the Cougars went 68-1. His senior year, 36-0, a state championship, 791 rebounds in 1989, a Texas state record that still stands. At LSU, he became the first player ever to lead the SEC in scoring, rebounding, field goal percentage, and blocks in a single season. He left after his junior year with the whole country watching. In 1992, the Orlando Magic took him first overall in the NBA draft. In his first season, Shaquille O'Neal averaged 23.4 points, 13.9 rebounds, and 3.5 blocks per game. The Magic improved by 20 wins. He won Rookie of the Year. He was 20 years old. The kid from Newark who had been teased about his feet, his stutter, and his size, the one who was expected by more than a few people to follow his biological father into failure, had just announced himself to the world. The world had no idea what that announcement would eventually cost him. The physical bill, what the NBA did to his body. There is a precise and unavoidable arithmetic to what the NBA does to a 7-foot, 325-pound body across 19 seasons. It breaks it. The only question is, which part goes first, and how much of the rest it takes with it. For Shaquille O'Neal, the answer was almost everything below the waist, and the organs he was medicating with to keep moving, long after they had sent every signal available to tell him to stop. The right big toe was where it started. Every explosive push-off for a dunk, every lateral pivot in the post, every landing from a rebound, all of that force traveled through the first metatarsophalangeal joint, with a load amplified by his size, far beyond what the joint was engineered to sustain. The result was hallux rigidus, degenerative arthritis, bone spurs, and a range of motion that collapsed from the athletic minimum of 60 to 80 degrees down to approximately 30 degrees. He played through it for years before missing the first 12 games of the 2002 to 2003 season for surgery. He had already won 2 championships on that deteriorating joint. He went back and won a third. Plantar fasciitis in his right arch forced him out of games in 2001. The fascia, the band of tissue running the length of the foot's underside, was never designed to absorb the repeated shocks of a man his size jumping and landing across 82 regular season games and deep playoff runs every single year. High-impact repetition converts micro-tears into chronic inflammation. With Shaq, there was no offseason long enough to reverse it. Then the knees. In November 2006, with the Miami Heat, he tore the cartilage in his left knee and missed approximately 35 games. Cartilage does not regenerate. Once it is gone, bones begin their slow erosion against each other. His had been absorbing the compressive forces generated by his frame across more than a decade of professional basketball. The tear was not an accident. It was an inevitability the calendar had been building toward. The hips followed, because that is how joint degeneration works. It cascades. Altered gait from a ruined toe overloads the knee. A compromised knee redistributes load to the hip. In March 2023, at 51 years old, Shaquille O'Neal underwent a total hip replacement, a titanium implant inserted where a joint that had been loaded past its tolerance for 2 decades had finally given out completely. He shared recovery videos. He said without drama that he can no longer dunk. He said he had not realized how bad the scans looked until they put them in front of him. The Achilles ended everything. On February 1st, 2011, with the Boston Celtics, his right Achilles tendon tore. Years of accumulated fatigue in the lower leg, running continuously under the load of his body weight, snapped the final structure. He returned briefly. He re-injured it. He retired. He did not want a farewell tour because he had seen this endpoint coming and refused to limp toward it in front of an audience. But the joints are only half the story, because to keep playing on all of those joints, through those broken toes and torn cartilage and deteriorating hips, Shaq was medicating at a level that would eventually produce damage of its own. For 19 seasons, it was routine. A club sandwich, fries, and 2 pills. NSAIDs like Indocin for daily inflammation. Opioids during acute injury windows. He exceeded prescribed doses consistently. If the prescription said take 1, I'm taking 3, because the only alternative was not playing, and not playing was something Shaquille O'Neal was built to refuse. The NBA's culture of that era normalized exactly this. Teams provided medications to keep their franchise players available. The incentive structure, contracts, championships, stardom did the rest.
I'm not gonna go give you 3 hard hours a day getting beat up and go home and get beat up and have to overdose myself on painkillers to get ready for the game.
He has described it as a doctor eventually telling him directly that he was addicted. The conversation that followed was heated. He had hidden most of it from his family. He had not framed it as addiction because he was not chasing euphoria. He was chasing a body that could perform for one more game. That distinction did not matter to his kidneys. Post-retirement, Shaq has described reduced kidney function in terms that carry real weight. My kidneys are kind of just chilling out. Limited kidney stuff, weak kidneys. Doctors now warn against further pharmacological strain. The liver carries signs of damage as well, consistent with nearly 2 decades of processing heavy opioids and anti-inflammatories. These are not recoverable conditions. They are the permanent receipts for 19 seasons of playing through pain the body was asking him to stop ignoring. Obstructive sleep apnea rounds out the picture, a condition in which his airway collapses repeatedly during sleep, cutting off oxygen in cycles that fragment rest and strain the heart. His size was the central factor. Large neck circumference, excess airway tissue, a frame that compresses the chest cavity when horizontal. He has described stopping breathing up to 72 times per hour and has spoken about a night when he fell out of bed at 2 a.m. with symptoms mimicking a cardiac event triggered by a stopped airway mid-sleep. He dismissed it for years as the tiredness of a big athlete. He now sleeps with a CPAP and a custom oral device and has partnered with with Eli Lilly on a public awareness campaign to ensure others don't dismiss it the way he did. He has lost over 55 pounds since his post-retirement peak, a sustained effort to give his joints and organs a survival margin they never had while he was playing. The game built him into a legend, and it rebuilt him, piece by piece, into someone who now negotiates every morning with the body that dominance left behind. The feud, what really happened between Shaq and Kobe. To understand Shaquille O'Neal's story, you have to understand the relationship at the center of his career, the one that produced 3 consecutive championships, split a dynasty apart at its peak, and ultimately left Shaq sitting alone with regrets he has never been able to fully set down. They were brought together in 1996. Shaq arrived in Los Angeles at 24 as the established center, already an all-star, already a franchise piece. Kobe arrived at 18, a high school phenom with the unblinking certainty of a man who had already decided he was going to own the room, and every room after it. They were wired identically, obsessive, competitive to the point of irrationality, and completely unwilling to concede the title of franchise player to each other.
He had an aura about him that I've never seen in an 18-year-old. The aura was kind of either this kid's really cocky or he believes in it.
Shaq recognized what Kobe was from the first moment. What he could not resolve was how to share the floor with it. Early tensions emerged quickly, Shaq viewing Kobe as a young showboat who prioritized his own numbers over the system. Kobe viewing Shaq as a dominant talent who arrived out of shape and did not work hard enough to honor what they were capable of together. Both had a point. That was part of what made it so combustible. In the 1998-99 season, during a pickup session at the team facility, it boiled over physically. Trash talk escalated to the point that Shaq reportedly struck Kobe during a dispute about fouls and floor leadership. Teammates intervened. Kobe did not back down. That incident did not fracture their partnership. It calcified its terms. 2 men who could make each other historically great, operating on a foundation of mutual distrust and mutual respect that were somehow inseparable from each other. Then came 3 consecutive championships, 2000, 2001, 2002. Shaq took the finals MVP all 3 times. They were the most dominant force the league had seen in a generation. But even during the winning, the dysfunction ran underneath everything.
And I just felt sometimes, his way. And, he's a fabulous player, just felt, sometimes that he didn't do it the right way. And I know he felt sometimes that I didn't work hard or whatever. Kobe and I pushed one another to play some of the greatest basketball of all time, and I am proud that no other team has accomplished what the three-peat Lakers have done.
The breaking point arrived in 2003. Shaq delayed surgery on his deteriorating right big toe, forcing Kobe to carry the offensive load through stretches where the team was functionally undermanned. Then, during Kobe's sexual assault investigation in Eagle, Colorado, charges that were later dropped, Kobe reportedly referenced Shaq's name in conversation with investigators, suggesting Shaq had made payments to women in past situations. That leaked. Shaq felt it as a calculated betrayal from someone who had agreed to keep their personal matters private. The agreement had been explicit. Kobe had broken it anyway. In October 2003, Kobe went public with Jim Gray and called Shaq fat and out of shape, questioned his leadership, his professional commitment, and implied he was dramatizing his injuries to buy himself extra recovery time. Shaq arrived at the next practice ready to handle it face to face.
He's a tough guy. I felt, with Kobe, it was too hard, too stressful, too much arguing.
Kobe hands it to O'Neal. But you did write in the book that at one point you wanted to kill him.
Yeah, that's because, that's how it felt.
And that's because of a line that had been crossed, one Shaq had not forgotten.
That's how I felt because, he said something after we had agreed not to say anything, and that's what it was.
Lakers traded Shaq to Miami in 2004. Kobe re-signed long-term. The partnership was over. What followed publicly was a war, a nightclub freestyle where Shaq rapped directly at Kobe using language that left no ambiguity about the depth of his anger. A Christmas Day 2004 matchup that attracted enormous viewership as an event of mutual resentment. Another round of public disses in 2008 after Kobe's first finals without Shaq ended in a loss. But the reconciliation also came, gradually, honestly. A pre-game embrace that became known as the Hug Heard Round the World, a 2018 TNT sit-down interview where they talked without armor, laughed with each other, and used the word brothers without irony. By the time of Kobe's death, the war had been over for years.
In truth, Kobe and I always maintained a deep respect and a love for one another.
And then, on the morning of January 26, 2020, Shaq's son walked into the room in tears.
One day I'm sitting in the house and my son come up crying. So when your son come up crying, you try to think about before.
He ran through the list of who it could be: his grandmother, his mother.
Is it grandma? Is it my mama? He said, yo man, Kobe just died in a helicopter crash. And I was just watching the night before when LeBron passed him up. I was like,
He refused to believe it. He called a contact in the sheriff's office. The confirmation came back. He started crying.
he said it was true. I started crying. And I'm like, damn it, I didn't even holler at him.
I didn't even holler at him. Not the trade, not the freestyle, not the years of public theater. That single line, I didn't even holler at him, is what actually haunts Shaquille O'Neal about Kobe Bryant.
It don't take you no time to be like, hey man, what's happening? Like a text or something.
He never did it. Kobe never did it.
I never did it, he never did it. And that's what hurt me the most. It really is. I think about it all the time.
He keeps pictures of Kobe in his house, catches himself going still when old highlights surface, done for that part of the day. 5 years later, it still haunts him. He has said it in every major interview since. We made history together. I should have been the one to just call once a week or text once a month. He never did. And no amount of reconciliation undoes the fact that the final chapter closed without the conversation they should have had. The controversies and scandals. What the spotlight exposed. The story of Shaquille O'Neal is not only the story of a man beaten down by the game and hollowed out by grief, it is also the story of a man who, in the height of his power and fame, made choices that cost him in ways the headlines never let him forget. To understand the full tragedy, those choices need to be named. The most personal is the one he has named himself. In his 2011 memoir, Shaq Uncut, and in subsequent interviews, Shaq admitted to serial infidelity throughout his marriage to Shawnee Henderson. They had married quietly in 2002. They had 4 children together. The marriage fractured publicly, a separation filing in 2007, a reconciliation, and a final divorce in 2011, with infidelity acknowledged as the core of the damage. Shaq has described having too many options in that world and making choices he now frames as mistakes. Shawnee, who later became a television producer and remarried, has described a marriage undermined by a man who was never fully present inside it.
I didn't quite understand that.
It's a man thing. I can't explain it on the camera because like a man rule.
The divorce left fissures in his relationships with his children that took years to begin repairing. His kids distanced themselves from him for a period. He has spoken about it in recent interviews with the directness of a man who no longer has the luxury of deflection. The affairs happened, the distance followed, and rebuilding took longer than winning championships. Then came 2008. Music promoter Robert Ross claimed he was kidnapped at gunpoint in West Hollywood by 7 members of the Main Street Mafia Crips, allegedly acting to recover a sex tape involving Shaq and a woman who was not his wife. Ross claimed he was driven to a South Central Los Angeles home, pistol whipped, and robbed of jewelry and $15,000 in cash. He named Shaq and an associate as the people the tape was meant to reach. What unraveled the case entirely was Ross's own admission. He later acknowledged under oath that no such tape existed. He had fabricated the sex tape claim as a pressure tactic in a business dispute he believed Shaq had wronged him on. In August 2011, all charges against the 7 men were dropped, with prosecutors citing the accuser's credibility collapse as the decisive factor. A subsequent civil lawsuit against Shaq was dismissed by a federal judge with prejudice. Shaq had been questioned by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, denied any involvement or knowledge of any tape, and was never charged with anything. The story generated lurid headlines for 3 years and ended with the accuser's credibility destroyed in court. The following year brought a separate allegation. In May 2013, Turner Studios employee Robert Williams filed a police report in Atlanta claiming that Shaq ran out of a room and hit me with a tackle punch to the back while he was working at the same studio where Inside the NBA is produced, causing neck and back injuries. Shaq's legal team described the incident as horseplay, physical roughhousing that had gotten out of hand given Shaq's size, rather than an intentional assault. No charges were ever filed. The investigation was opened, reported on briefly, and then closed without resolution. Like the kidnapping case, it became a headline that attached itself to Shaq's name without producing any legal consequence. Most recently in 2022, Shaq was named in a class action lawsuit tied to his promotion of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange, the exchange that collapsed spectacularly in November 2022, leaving investors with catastrophic losses. The lawsuit alleged that celebrity spokespeople, including Shaq, had promoted unregistered securities and misled the public about FTX's safety and legitimacy. In 2025, Shaq settled for $1.8 million, more than his reported endorsement fee, denying wrongdoing while agreeing to resolve the claims. He has described himself as just a paid spokesperson who was not aware of the exchange's underlying fraudulent structure. Taken together, these controversies form a specific pattern: a man operating at the center of enormous wealth, fame, and influence, making choices, some calculated, some careless, some simply the product of being the most famous person in every room for 30 years, that left trails he has spent years navigating. None of them ended in criminal conviction addiction. Many of them left damage he couldn't fully walk away from, and all of them were conducted inside a public life where the cost of a mistake is measured not in private regret but in permanent record. The weight of silence, grief, guilt, and what remains at 54. Everything about the way Shaquille O'Neal carries loss, the suppression of it, the compression of it, the way it resurfaces years later in interviews as regret rather than grief, begins with one man, the one he called Dad. Sergeant Philip Harrison built his household on military values, discipline, duty, sacrifice, and the belief that emotional display was a form of weakness a serious man could not afford. He instilled all of it in Shaq through consistency, and when consistency wasn't enough, through force. He passed down a Jamaican-influenced approach to discipline that Shaq has defended entirely. It made me who I am, while also acknowledging he would not raise his own children the same way. When Harrison died in September 2013, Shaq was left holding everything his upbringing had produced: the championship mentality, the unbreakable discipline, and the specific inability to say the things that matter most while the people who need to hear them are still alive. He has spoken about the 5-word letter he would send his stepfather if he could. It read, "Thank you, you were right." That was the whole conversation they never had.
I only cried twice, 3 times. Grandmother's death, father's death, and sister's death. And not because I was sad, because I forgot to tell them thank you.
Not because of sadness, because of missed thank yous. That is the shape of Shaquille O'Neal's grief. Not the loss itself, but the specific and permanent absence of conversations that should have happened before the loss made them impossible. Harrison's dying wish was that Shaq take care of the family. He has honored it completely. His mother, his siblings, their children. He runs the operation, but he runs it inside the model Harrison built. The man protects and provides and does not distribute his burden, because distributing it is weakness. And weakness was the one thing Sergeant Harrison never permitted, which is what made his sister Aisha's death so devastating when it came. Aisha O'Neal died in 2019 from cancer at 40 years old. She had beaten cancer twice before. The third time, the family did not tell Shaq the full severity. They did not want to place the weight of it on him while he was working. He visited. He asked if she wanted him to stay. The family told him no, go take care of business. He left. He was on the way back from a meeting when she died.
Go there, land, do the meeting, 8 o'clock. On the way back, she passes away. I get the text.
What stayed with him was not the timing. It was what he said before he walked out the door.
But I didn't tell her I love her. All the other times, I love you, I miss you. My last thing I said was, I'll be back tomorrow.
She had asked for nothing from him. A career, a husband, a life. She fought cancer 3 separate times without making it his emergency. And the last time they were in the same room, he told her he'd see her tomorrow. Tomorrow did not come. And a few months after Aisha died, Kobe died. 2 people who meant everything to him. Both gone before he could say the one thing he actually needed to say.
And then a couple months after that, Kobe passed. And it's a suck saying that we had our little thing, but
he keeps a mural of both of them in his home, his sister and his little brother side by side on a wall, the 2 losses he carries everywhere. Now, at 54, Shaquille O'Neal is running what looks from the outside like a complete second act. His net worth sits at approximately $500 million, with annual earnings of $95 million or more. Big Chicken has 40+ locations open, with 350+ in the development pipeline, including its first Central American stores in Honduras in 2026. He holds franchise stakes in approximately 150 car wash locations, 40 fitness sites, Papa John's, and real estate across multiple states. He made early investments in Google and in Ring, the smart doorbell company Amazon acquired for over $1 billion. He is the president of Reebok Basketball and the commissioner of the Dunkman League, the world's first professional dunking competition, launching in summer 2026 on TNT, TBS, and HBO Max with a $500,000 grand prize. The picture of triumph is convincing, but when the interview gets quiet, it shifts.
How fulfilled are you with the life that you've lived?
I'm not fulfilled at all.
Not self-pity, something colder. The admission of a man engineered from birth to keep moving, for whom stopping long enough to feel satisfied would itself register as failure. He carries a titanium hip, kidneys operating at reduced capacity from years of painkiller use, sleep apnea managed nightly with a device, and more than 55 pounds of post-retirement weight loss, carefully managed to give his joints the margin they never had while he was performing. He cannot dunk. He negotiates with his body every morning for what the day is going to allow. What he says he wants, when the question of legacy is put to him plainly, is this.
Shaq was a nice guy. That's it.
Not the 4 championships, not the 3 finals MVPs, or the Hall of Fame induction, or the 75th anniversary team selection. Not the $500 million or the Dunkman League or Big Chicken expanding into Central America. A nice guy. That is the full epitaph he is building everything else around. He says it in every major interview that touches the subject. Reach out to the people you love. Call them. Text them. Say it while they can still hear it. Do not let distance accumulate the way he let it with Kobe. Do not walk out of the room the way he walked out on Aisha. Do not stand at the graveside tabulating all the things you meant to say and then didn't. He says it constantly. He says it because he knows the price, not as philosophy, but as lived fact with 2 specific faces he carries on a wall in his house. At 54, Shaquille O'Neal is a man who built everything his childhood never could have imagined, who absorbed more physical punishment than most human frames are designed to sustain and kept performing anyway, who scandals touched but could not fully undo, who loved fiercely in the way his upbringing allowed him to love, which was not always enough and always too late, and who lives now with the specific knowledge that the most important conversations of his life ended before he was prepared for them to end. The game gave him 4 rings. The game gave him the MVP. The game gave him a career that history will argue over for as long as people argue about greatness. And the game dismantled his body piece by piece while he was too consumed with winning to count the cost. And the wall his father built around his heart, the one that made him unbreakable on the floor, that allowed him to absorb pain without stopping, that produced a champion when a lesser man would have folded, is the same wall that meant he never picked up the phone, never sent the text, never said the thing to his little brother and his sister that would have meant everything to say. That is the tragedy of Shaquille O'Neal, not what he lost, what he never got to say before he lost it. Like this video? Don't forget to explore more similar content through the suggested cards on your screen.